Welcome back to our journey through the fascinating world of That Time I Got Reincarnated as a Slime's Light Novel. Let's continue from the last part, where we left.
Is there anyone suitable for the role? Diablo asked, expressing concern. Rimuru acknowledged the lack of suitable candidates, especially considering that the volunteer army was unplanned. Benimaru emphasized the need to utilize them effectively, prompting discussion on finding a capable commander. Considering the diverse and ragtag nature of the volunteer army, Benimaru was the only option that came to mind for Rimuru. However, Benimaru suggested Gerard from Sawai's force, but Rimuru dismissed the idea due to Gerard's past as a traitor and the secret arrangement with Inglesia. It wouldn't be wise for Gerard to be in the public eye, given his status. Strength-wise, he's fine, but it's not realistic, Benimaru remarked casually. Xian then proposed enlisting the Crusaders' help, which was met with skepticism. Despite objections, she suggested Masayuki again, which immediately resonated with Rimuru, who exclaimed with excitement. Recognizing the potential, they decided to appoint Masayuki as the leader of the volunteer army, thanks to Xian's suggestion. The decision was made without asking him, but everyone agreed it was a good choice. Masayuki didn't seem too happy about it. He wondered why it had to be him. But war doesn't care about what people want. Rimuru, the person telling Masayuki, didn't know what to say. It was sad, but in war, feelings didn't matter much. Rimuru thought Masayuki would do well leading the volunteer army. He was a good friend to have in tough times. Masayuki talked about how he's improving his unique skill and not getting as much praise anymore. He seemed like he didn't want the job, but Rimuru knew he was just pretending. Rimuru asked if Masayuki wanted to impress his friends, which made Masayuki hesitate. Rimuru offered to let Masayuki teach the kids and get praise if he took the job. Rimuru reminded Masayuki of a time he helped him in a tough situation. Finally, after some encouragement, Masayuki agreed to take the job, saying he wanted to pay Rimuru back for helping him before. Masayuki got the job as the general of the volunteer army, but he didn't seem too happy about it. The volunteers were excited about it though, like they already had a head start. Rimuru noticed Masayuki talking about having more control over his special skill, but wasn't sure if he was telling the truth. Rimuru wondered if Masayuki's luck was actually helping him, or if he was just pretending. On the other hand, Leon always seemed to mess things up, even when he was a hero. Rimuru tried to cheer Masayuki up by telling him he'd be a great inspiration for the army. Despite all the doubts, Masayuki was now in charge of the 20,000 volunteers. The new organizational chart showed 52,000 troops on the right wing and 50,000 on the left, with Benimaru at the top and the generals below him. They had over 100,000 soldiers, but Rimuru wasn't sure if it was enough to beat the Imperial force. They had backup from the Western deployment, with a total of 250,000 troops from mercenaries and support units. Rimuru had convinced the council to help, knowing they had no choice. They had the advantage of terrain and support from demon lords like Veldora, Luminous and Leon, and even Milim agreed to help. Rimuru also had Diablo's Black Core as a trump card, though they didn't answer to anyone but Diablo and his demonesses. Rimuru was thinking about the war in their room, determined to protect their land no matter what. They didn't want to repeat past mistakes and were ready to defend their paradise at all costs. While Rimuru and the group got ready for war, the Eastern Empire was doing the same, but they had been planning for much longer. They were taking their time, making sure everything was perfect for their big attack. Soon, they would be ready to wake up from their long sleep, and the storm of war would begin. The Eastern Empire, also known as the Nazca Namrium Ulmeria United Eastern Empire, was one of the oldest nations in the world, with a history stretching back thousands of years. It began as the Kingdom of Nazca and later merged with the magical Kingdom of Namrius and the Eastern Federation of Ulmeria to form the current empire. With a powerful military, it had ruled for over 2,000 years under the leadership of Emperor Ludora Nam Ul Nazca, keeping all its conquered nations under strict control. The leader of the empire aimed for total control, reflected in their unbroken imperial bloodline, with the current emperor named Ludora like his predecessors. Rumors said the emperor always sought absolute power, and the military followed a might makes right approach, promoting those who proved their strength. Despite this, the empire hadn't attacked the forest of Jura yet because they weren't ready. About 350 years ago, they failed to subdue Veldora the Storm Dragon, losing an entire city in the process. The city, built as a base for invading the forest, was destroyed along with those who angered Veldora. The empire had ambitious plans for expansion, driven solely by the emperor's will, with no opposition from citizens. The empire's plan to invade went smoothly until one leader decided to confront Veldora, the master of the forest of Jura. It was a foolish idea that ended in disaster, with all records of the incident destroyed. The empire's dream was destroyed, and they spent years recovering from Veldora's attack, but the emperor never allowed them to resume the invasion. They stayed away from the forest, waiting for another chance to attack. In the empire, there are two main parts: the political side and the military side, both supporting the emperor's rule. The emperor holds a lot of power, being both the leader of the political administration and the head of the military. The political side includes the House of Lords, where noble people make decisions, but really they just follow what the emperor says. The nobles don't get to vote and can't make their own decisions. They manage land given to them by the emperor, but it still belongs to him. The nobles have help from educated government officials who make plans and policies, all while promising loyalty to the emperor. The military was also controlled by the emperor personally, not the state, making it his own private force. Even in cities taken over by the empire, all property belonged to the emperor, who then lent it back to the people. The defense forces in these cities were also provided by the emperor. This system kept rebellions in check, using the empire's strong power to enforce it. Surrendering to the empire meant giving up all other rights, and anyone who objected would face violent punishment. This kept peace across the empire, using both fear of the military and promises of safety for those who obeyed. Despite ruling over a huge nation, the emperor's power was never questioned in 2,000 years of history, leading some to think of him as almost like a god. The empire's military had three main parts: the armored division, which had tanks and modern equipment; the magical beast division, with powerful creatures from all over; and the composite division, made up of unique soldiers and beasts that didn't work well together but still had dangerous powers. While the Western nations used swords and magic, otherworlders played a big part in the empire's military, with a man named Ghidorah being particularly interested in them and their knowledge. Despite his old age, Ghidorah was full of energy and loved learning from people from other worlds. He found out that these other worlds didn't have magic like theirs, but they still managed to live together despite their differences. Ghidorah had a special ability to keep coming back to life when he died, which let him gather lots of knowledge and even learn languages from other worlds. He protected otherworlders and convinced the empire to let him do what he wanted with them. The empire welcomed otherworlders with special skills, making their population bigger than any other nation. This influenced the empire's culture a lot, and many of these people had unique abilities that the empire studied. Their military technology was advanced, especially in the armored division, where mechanized soldiers called Mechak Knights were the main fighters instead of traditional knights. Otherworld knowledge also helped in the magical beast division, where they used DNA to understand the powers of magical creatures better. The composite division had many powerful otherworlders with their own skills, making them a formidable force in battle. Ghidorah's passion for otherworlders expanded the empire's military strength greatly, showing how important their influence was. In addition to the main divisions Ghidorah helped build, there was a special force called the Imperial Guardians, tasked with protecting the emperor. They were a small group of 100 members, some of whom were chosen from the best of each division, including otherworlders. These knights were selected purely based on their strength, not their family background. They were given the best weapons and armor, making them incredibly powerful fighters. Despite their small number, they were treated like high-ranking officers and were the pride of the empire's military. So the empire had 4 military divisions, each led by the strongest members chosen through rank-based duels. Lower-ranking soldiers could challenge their superiors, but only under certain conditions, like having witnesses present and not during military operations. If you lost a duel or killed your opponent, you had to wait a year before challenging again. The Imperial Guardians, especially, saw many challengers trying to join their ranks. This system showed how the empire believed in using force to prove superiority. But Ghidorah was unique and didn't fit into this hierarchy, treated differently by the empire. Appointments to the Imperial Guardians were made by a group Ghidorah wasn't part of. When a commander left, someone new was picked from 100 candidates. Everyone had the same chance to move up, so talented people wouldn't be overlooked. They trained quietly, waiting for a chance to show their skills. At the top of the Guardians was the Marshal, and below them were 3 generals. To become Marshal meant being the best. Generals were picked by a group including the Emperor, the Marshal, and Ghidorah. Leading took more than just strength, but any general who led a division was always the strongest in it, since everyone else was weaker than an imperial knight. To those watching from outside, the marshal and their generals were seen as the empire's top leaders. If the Imperial Guardians had Legend-class gear, then the quartet must possess even better equipment, God-class gear, the most powerful treasures of the Empire. Only those with specific abilities could even touch them, let alone use them. These items were said to unleash incredible power only when accepted by their wielder. With such powerful gear, they were considered invincible, the foundation of the Empire's strength. But then, something changed in the Empire. For the first time in many years, a commander lost a ranking challenge, putting the young man in charge of the composite division. His name was Yuki Kagurazaka, and he had risen through the ranks remarkably quickly, defeating experienced fighters one after another without losing once. Now, with his sudden rise, significant changes were about to happen in the Empire.
That's it for today, guys, and thanks for watching the video. Stay tuned for next chapter. Until then, goodbye.